Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly pumped you're here with us today because we are tackling something intensely personal, something literally every single one of us has faced, and frankly, something most people just misunderstand entirely. Today, we're breaking down a really powerful framework from Krug's Rise on the exact anatomy of resilience. We're going to look squarely at why we give up, the psychology behind that breaking point, and exactly how to push through it. If you've ever walked away from a goal, a project, or a dream, and later felt that twisting knot of regret in your stomach, well, this explainer is built specifically for you. So let's get right into it.
You were this close, and you stopped. Just let those words sit with you for a second. It's a bitter, heavy reality, isn't it? This is the core tragedy of human potential that we're confronting right out of the gate. We so rarely stop when we're miles away from the finish line. We stop when the exhaustion peaks, which is almost mathematically always right at the absolute end of the journey. You stopped. Not because you lacked ability, but because in that highly specific moment, the friction just felt way too great.
Part 1. The breaking point. Navigating the dark moment. Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand resilience, we have to deeply analyze that dark, quiet moment where the mind starts negotiating a surrender. There's a specific script that runs through our heads, a series of lies we use to justify letting go. The first, most common lie we tell ourselves: it wasn't working. Whisper this to yourself and you'll realize just how familiar it sounds. It's a logical trap. You put in the effort, you look at the immediate output, and the two just don't seem to match. Your progress stalls, the visible results dry up, and your brain offers you an easy out. It wasn't working. It sounds so rational, right? It gives you permission to pack up your tools and go home without feeling like a failure. You didn't fail, the process just wasn't working. And if logic doesn't work, well, we move right to patience. It was taking too long. This is where the intense frustration of delayed gratification totally clouds our judgment. We live in a world that promises immediate returns, but building anything that actually matters operates on an entirely different timeline. When the timeline in your head doesn't match the hard reality of the grind, this excuse creeps in. It captures the sheer, crushing exhaustion of waiting and working without the reward.
Nem, the darkest thought of all arrives. Maybe I'm not built for this. This is the ultimate self-doubt. It moves from blaming the process to blaming the timeline to finally attacking your own identity. In those dark, quiet moments we all inevitably face, when you're entirely alone with your ambitions, this is the voice that tries to convince you that you're fundamentally flawed or unqualified. It's a devastating thought. But here is where we need to flip the entire script on its head.
And this brilliantly illustrates the central paradox we're exploring today. Here's what nobody tells you. The overwhelming urge to quit is actually a signal. That immense pressure, it almost always means you are closest to the breakthrough. The darkest part of the night really is right before the dawn. When every alarm bell in your nervous system is screaming at you to pull the ripcord, it's not a sign that you're failing, it's the ultimate indicator that you are right on the threshold of succeeding.
Think about this for a second. Every person you admire, every single person in history who built something that mattered, they all faced this exact same darkness. They heard the exact same voices telling them they weren't built for it. The only difference, literally the absolute only difference between them and the people who faded away, is right here. They faced that dark, quiet moment where everything inside them said stop and they simply didn't listen. They got up one more time. And here's the absolute crucial point. They didn't do it because they suddenly felt a magical surge of motivation. They didn't feel ready. They did it because they decided to. It was a choice, not a feeling.
Section 2. Rest versus quitting. The anatomy of surrender. There is an absolutely critical difference between taking a necessary pause to catch your breath and stopping entirely, because confusing these two things is where most people lose their way.
What if I had stayed? Listen, quitting is not rest. Quitting is making a permanent choice to live with this heavy, unanswerable question for the rest of your life. When you quit, the pain of the effort stops? Yeah, for sure. But it is immediately replaced with the chronic, lingering ache of what if. It's like a phantom pain that just never fully goes away.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark boundary drawn here. Quitting is living with the what if. Resting is slowing down when you must. Taking care of yourself, pausing to recover your strength, stepping back to gain perspective, that's all part of the process. It's a strategic pause. Quitting, on the other hand, is a permanent exit. You have to fiercely protect the boundary between the two in your mind.
And why do we so often confuse the two? Well, it's because of the weight. But do not mistake the weight of growth for a sign to stop.
That painful weight you're carrying right now, that is the literal resistance that is building you. Just like a muscle requires the resistance of physical weight to tear and rebuild stronger, your mind, your character, and your capabilities absolutely require the resistance of adversity. The struggle isn't in the way of the process. The struggle is the process.
Section 3. Finding your core, the ultimate decision. So we understand the breaking point. We understand the difference between resting and quitting, which brings us to the ultimate decision. You have a definitive, life-altering choice to make, and it has to happen right now.
Not tomorrow. Tomorrow is a lie we tell ourselves to feel better about giving up today. Tomorrow is comfortable. It's the ultimate procrastination that slowly, quietly kills our most important goals. You don't build resilience in the future. You build it in the immediate present, and certainly not when it's easier. We have to completely crush this illusion right now. The path to building something that matters will never suddenly become devoid of resistance. The seas aren't going to perfectly part for you. If you wait for the friction to disappear, you're going to be waiting forever. The conditions will never be perfect.
The decision happens now, right in this moment, with all the doubt, with all the exhaustion, with all the resistance staring you right in the face. This is the only place where the choice to continue actually holds power.
To make that choice, we have a simple, incredibly grounding directive. Find your core. Your core is simply the thing that made you start in the first place, that burning why. The beautiful truth is that your reason is still there. It hasn't evaporated. It hasn't left you. It's simply been buried under the frustration and the fatigue, just waiting for you to clear the debris and come back to it. You have to reconnect with that initial spark.
Find your core. Rise without limits. This isn't just a sign-off. It's a blueprint for anyone standing at the edge of giving up. Reconnect with why you started. Use the weight to build yourself and make the decision to get up one more time. This is just the beginning of what we're covering, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you for joining me on The Explainer. But before we go, I want you to ask yourself one final thing. What is the one goal you almost walked away from today, and what happens tomorrow if you decide to push through it anyway? See you next time.